Welcome to the Bookman's Corner. We have a very interesting show today. I'm Lois Lindstrom. In the United States, the FBI is involved in almost every aspect of American life, from Watergate to Waco, from congressional scandals to the death of Osama bin Laden. The book we will be discussing shortly presents headline-making disclosures about the most important figures and events of our times. And that book is The Secrets of the FBI. The author, Ronald Kessler, was an investigative reporter at both the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal, where he won numerous awards. Nice to have you on our show, Ron.
Thanks for having me.
You've authored the New York Times best-selling book, In the President's Secret Service, and also The Terrorist Watch and the CIA at War. Your latest book penetrates a wall of secrecy about the FBI, or the Federal Bureau of Investigation. You disclose J. Edgar Hoover's sexual orientation, what triggered Vince Foster's suicide during the Clinton presidency, and what preceded actress Marilyn Monroe's death, and much, much more. I found it truly eye-opening to read how FBI agents break into homes, offices, mob dens, and embassies to plant bugging devices without getting caught or being shot as burglars. What inspired you to write The Secrets of the FBI?
Having written about the FBI for decades, I was aware that FBI agents have all these secrets that never come out. They may be related to investigations, they may be related to just things they pick up. And so I wanted to present those secrets just as good reading.
Well, let me ask you, how did you get the FBI agents to tell you these secrets? I mean, it's really a fantastic investigative work to make that happen, I think.
Usually I would waterboard them. That works pretty well. But,
take them out for a drink or special drink.
I think I have a track record of telling it like it is. They appreciate that. When the FBI does good, I say that. When they screw up, I say that. They figure I already know a lot anyway. I already have a lot of good sources.
They respect you.
And
they think you're fair, right?
Exactly.
And do you play sports with them? I mean, do you play golf with them? Do you
bowl?
No.
You know, we might go to dinner every now and then, but I think they just appreciate that I try to tell a straight story.
And what was the most fascinating FBI secret that you uncovered writing this book?
The most amazing thing, I think, was how the FBI plants bugging devices in homes and offices as part of their investigations. Of course, it's all court authorized, but as you say, they could be shot as burglars legitimately. Yeah. And what they do is weeks beforehand, they case out the joint and they figure out who goes in, who goes out. And then on the night of the break-in, they have agents watch at the homes of anybody who might go back, let's say to an embassy.
Right.
And if they try to go back, they will divert them. They'll stage a phony traffic accident. They'll open a fire hydrant in the area so they can't go back.
And they have the cooperation of the police, and
they will
let them know that they're going to be casing out a house, right?
Usually,
or an embassy. Or
yeah, unless there's some question about police corruption, in which case they won't tell the police. But they also take a photo of any dog that might be on the premises, and they show that to a veterinarian who's on contract, and he prescribes just the right amount of tranquilizer to shoot into the dog with a dart gun. And
so the dog will then wake up, and they won't know that the dog had been put to sleep, right?
Right. In fact, they do give him another shot to wake him up to make sure he's not sleeping.
Another shot. Wow.
Yeah, and they will also take a photo of the front of a house if they need to break into a house, blow that up into a huge tarp that they drape in front of the house, and then the agents work behind that tarp to defeat the locks and the alarm system, so that anybody from the street at night can't see the agents working behind that tarp.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And then there were so many interesting secrets here. For instance, who secretly visited Marilyn Monroe just before she took her life? This was a surprise to me.
Well, it turned out that the Bobby Kennedy, the Attorney General, would borrow the personal car of the head of the Los Angeles field office.
The FBI field office in L.A., right?
Right, to go and see Marilyn on a regular basis. And of course, obviously they were having an affair. It's possible that Bobby broke up with her, and that's why she committed suicide.
And how close was that before, did he see her like several hours before she committed suicide?
It was within hours.
Within hours,
that's
right?
Yeah. And this is all documented on the record. That's the nice thing about the book. It's almost all on the record.
Incredible, incredible. And then you feel like, the FBI agents, have they been caught planting bugs in homes and offices or in mafia dens or something? have the local police screwed up, and have they been incidences where the press has jumped in on a story about this, or has it been?
The press has never been able to get at this at all, and I'm still amazed that I got the material. The FBI actually gave it to me, and Bob Mueller, the FBI director, actually approved giving it to me, and about 20% of the book is about that, but it's never come out before.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And then, what about modern day cyber terrorism, which the FBI is now fighting? I read recently that we're being flooded by Chinese cyber attacks. I mean, what is the FBI doing about that?
FBI has a big effort on the cyber attack front, but it's almost hopeless. It's just so
there's so much of it,
endless.
right?
Millions of attacks every single day on both government and private. One agent said the only way to really be secure is just to not use the internet.
Right. And what did you learn are the 3 most critical intelligence threats facing America when writing this book?
In terms of the foreign intelligence, certainly the SVR, the successor to the KGB in Russia, the Chinese, and those are really by far the two biggest.
The Russians and Chinese are the toughest, the most difficult challenges we have. Then, right?
That's right. Yeah. And the Chinese tend to infiltrate more. They'll have their people go to school here and then get jobs here, whereas the Russians tend to operate more out of their embassy under diplomatic cover. But they're just as aggressive as they were during the Cold War.
Wow. And when reading your book, I also checked Amazon.com, the feedback from readers, and one of the things I read was that some readers complained about the lack of footnotes. But you felt, what do you feel about that?
Well, the book is almost all on the record, so if you want to know the source of some information about, for example, how they break into homes and offices to plant bugging devices, the person in charge of that, Louis Griever, is quoted on the record in the book. So there's simply no need for footnotes. I think footnotes are sort of an academic exercise that doesn't always really document anything.
Exactly. And I was also interested in what really happened at with the FBI's siege at Ruby Ridge and the subsequent massacre at Waco, Texas.
There's a lot of misinformation about that. In that case, the Branch Davidians decided to set fire to themselves. It was not the FBI. The FBI,
and that was miscommunicated, don't you think?
I think so. Yeah, sure. But in retrospect, agents feel that the FBI should have waited them out more. Should not have moved in. That's the way normally hostage situations are.
They're a little bit more patient.
Dealt with, or other situations where people are barricaded.
Okay. Well, let me ask you the big question. Was former FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover a cross-dresser, and what is his legacy?
Hoover was not a cross-dresser. That was something that someone made up, and an author quoted it. But he did spend almost all his free time with Clyde Tolson, his deputy. They would go to lunch and dinner together. They went on vacations together. They would take adoring pictures of each other. And Hoover left his entire estate, worth about $3 million in today's dollars, to Tolson. So clearly there was some, I would say, homosexual relationship, maybe not sexual, but a
deep friendship, right?
Very, very, yeah.
And they lived together, right?
They didn't live together.
Oh, they didn't live together.
No,
okay.
No, but can you imagine, having lunch and dinner with
every day
and going on vacation with,
that's right.
with the same person?
That's
Hoover's legacy, I think of him as sort of a half monster and a half patriot, because he did establish this great organization. It's the most admired law enforcement agency in the world. He was very technologically advanced at the time. He established the laboratory, the fingerprinting.
Right. Very well respected,
the
really.
files, yeah. But on the other hand, he engaged in massive abuses, illegal wiretapping, political surveillance, didn't really focus on spies properly. So it's quite a mixed legacy.
Well, then I was so surprised in reading your book that J. Edgar Hoover abused his position with the employees. I mean, they were improving his home. They were putting in a patio in the back. It was
endless. His whole house was maintained by the FBI. and
they were painting it. They were
painting
they were
it.
putting in shrubs. They were
writing his books for him, and
Writing
then
his
he
books.
he would get the royalties. So he would be indicted today, according to
yes,
former agents. But of course, back then things were quite different.
Well, I also read in your book that many in the House of Representatives were opposed to letting females become agents. They were concerned about sex problems. How have their views changed over time?
Many in the FBI were, yeah. Well, same with police. The idea of female police officers back then was shocking. But they changed along with the rest of
modern society, I guess, right?
Ironically, sometimes they needed females for sting operations and as decoys, and so they would use their secretaries.
Right.
So obviously there was a need for
the
female agents for that reason alone.
Yes, yes. Now, William Sessions was the FBI director under Ronald Reagan, and he had a very ambitious, aggressive wife, Alice Sessions, who considered herself a co-director. Tell us an Alice Sessions story.
Well, for one thing, she insisted on having a card to enter FBI headquarters when you're supposed to have a top secret clearance for that.
Did she get it? She got the card.
And she did.
Yeah.
She got that, of course. Anything she wanted, she got. She really pulled the string. She thought the FBI was plotting against her and against her husband. She thought her house was actually bugged by the FBI, wiretapped by the FBI, and she would tell me these things. I would spend time with her. She would say, "Come over and help me take down the wallpaper off the walls." We went up to New York on the FBI plane together with the director, and she would scold the FBI agent there because at the end of the trip he threw away the fruit. She was very concerned about food. She would actually get doggy bags at embassy parties and bring them home. So just wild stuff.
Wild imagination, huh? When the newly elected President Clinton arrived in Washington, Clinton fired Sessions. Wasn't it the first time in history that an FBI director had been fired? And was that appropriate, you think?
Well, it was, because it was a result of my book, previous book.
Good for you.
The FBI, Inside the World's Most Powerful Law Enforcement Agency. I, in the course of doing that, found out about abuses that he was engaged in. And I wanted to interview him about it. He didn't want to be interviewed. I finally wrote a letter. Well, it turned out the FBI turned that letter over to the Office of Professional Responsibility to be investigated.
Wow.
And as a result of that, Clinton fired him. So
incredible.
absolutely,
That's great.
Absolutely important to maintain the standards of the FBI.
Absolutely. And then let me ask you, what did you learn about the Vince Foster suicide? Didn't he meet a VIP several hours before he died?
There was nothing about that true about that. There are all these conspiracy theories, but what is true is that about a week before his death, Hillary Clinton met with him and other White House aides and totally reamed him out, humiliated him in front of all these other aides just because she disagreed with some interpretation that he had. Called him a small-town hick lawyer. You'll never make it in the big time. He was already depressed, but the FBI found in interviewing...
She called him a small-town hick lawyer.
Yeah.
But many people reported that they were lovers or they were very, very close.
Yeah, there's nothing to really substantiate that.
Okay.
But what did happen is that after that, his demeanor changed. He became very withdrawn. He would break into tears quickly.
He became really depressed then.
Very depressed.
Okay.
And a week later, he committed suicide. And the FBI says that meeting with Hillary is what triggered his suicide.
Wow, wow. Then President Clinton then selected Louis Freeh to be the FBI director on July 30th, 1973. And I read with fascination in your book that Freeh hated the press and decided that no FBI agent could ever say anything to the press until all appeals were exhausted, which could take a process that could take decades. What else did Freeh do that many Americans would find very unreasonable?
Well, the worst thing he did was that he did not believe in technology and therefore did not ever update the FBI's computer system. So they were actually using pre-Pentium machines, green screens, no internet access, just ridiculous. And that definitely hampered the response to the 9/11 attack and also hampered getting any leads about the attack.
So it was really an antiquated, totally messed up system. Okay.
Totally.
Well, I thought your chapter about FBI Director Robert Mueller was very interesting. As President Bush's new appointee to lead the FBI, he found the computers that were a mess, and explain what he did to fix it. I mean, it was apparently during, like you say, in September in 2001, it was a technological nightmare there, right?
Yeah. He took over about 5 or 6 days before 9/11. And the first thing he did, even before the attack, was order thousands of new Dell computers. So he totally recognized what the problem was.
In all the regional offices and everywhere,
sure.
right? They weren't communicating with each other, right?
That's right.
Oh, incredible. Now, does the FBI have any type of annual review of FBI agents to determine whether or not they are working for our enemies? I mean, isn't it the problem with counterintelligence? I mean, are we really monitoring the agents to make sure they're loyal to the United States? And
there are periodic polygraph tests of counterintelligence agents who are the ones who go after spies. So now that has happened.
okay,
luckily.
so and then tell us about Art Cummings, who was directly responsible under the FBI director for protecting the United States from terrorists and spies.
He was very candid with me for this book and went into how the FBI has changed since 9/11, how it's become very prevention-oriented, what the problems are, what he thinks of the Obama administration, pro and con. So very valuable insights into the whole world of counterterrorism.
Art Cummings has been so efficient at determining problems before they explode into huge problems, right? I mean,
One thing he did was he introduced what they call tripwires, where let's say a chemical company will now alert the FBI if there's a suspicious purchase, and that's actually led to roll-ups of plots such as the one to blow up George W. Bush's home in Dallas.
Yes, that was huge. That was huge to read about that. And then also the FBI has a research facility on the grounds of the FBI Academy in Quantico. What are they doing there?
Well, research is sort of a euphemism for bugging and wiretapping. That's what they do there.
And so what they're trying to do is figure out ways to really perfect wiretapping and bugging, right?
They will develop the bugging devices. They actually showed me a real bug. It was the size of a postage stamp and just a little bit thicker. And
That's small?
Yeah,
Wow.
and it will record for 20 hours or transmit as you wish. Just amazing that they would show it to me.
Yes.
I actually thought to myself, are they going to be arrested or am I going to be arrested?
That's right. Could you take a picture?
No, they didn't want that.
That's right. Well, you also wrote that the FBI shares techniques with the intelligence services of Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. Is there a lot of international cooperation, or are we the ones really fueling the drive toward technological advancements and things?
Well, the FBI is very advanced, and they also compare notes with the CIA. But there's tremendous liaison now with foreign intelligence services. So on many different fronts, they all cooperate. It's quite different from the old days.
Well, you also wrote that the FBI has seen an explosion of public corruption cases. I mean, how many, and why do you think that is happening?
Well, first of all, there's more focus on it, which there should be. Under Hoover, he would never actually go after a congressman, for example. He was afraid that if he did, he would be toppled from power. That's what he really cared about. So that just shows that the FBI is on the job because there's lots of corruption.
Yeah, and the other thing was there's so many Americans trying to get a job at the FBI. I mean, the caliber of candidates for the job is really high, isn't it?
Yeah, the ratio is actually higher than trying to get into Harvard.
So what was it? 100 was there what 70,000 trying for like less than 1,000 jobs, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Incredible statistics,
Yeah.
and so you have.
Well, a lot of people, watch those shows. Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.
Right.
and all. The FBI portrayed as a Superman. They're not quite Supermen, but they have tremendous power and
they're very talented, right?
And the reason we haven't been attacked since 9/11 is
because they're doing
the
such a
FBI.
great job
That's right.
of jumping on problems that happen before they take off.
Right.
Well, what is the FBI doing to capture lone wolves who maybe don't have ties to existing terrorist organizations or networks, but are planning to bomb a significant target?
Yeah, of course that's a big an increasing problem, and it's so difficult because they're not part of an organization. But the FBI will monitor websites that might have information about making explosives or other possible terrorist activities. They will develop sources who may have heard about overtures that these people make, and that's the main method.
Now, didn't the FBI have the largest crackdown on the mafia in history in January of 2011? Tell us about that.
That was, I believe at that time, the largest crackdown, I think, in New York. And boy, you know, it takes tremendous courage for FBI agents to go undercover, pretend to be mafia, and uncover what they're doing. And that's what happened in this case.
And so it was very well coordinated, and they did not have much loss of life or anything. They just went in and started making the arrest, right?
Yeah. The FBI has a very few number of agents who've been killed in the line of duty.
That's fantastic. Is it true that getting the State Department to deny a visa based on a FBI request is almost impossible?
It's very difficult. You know, the State Department has a different mindset. They want to be diplomatic. They don't want to ruffle any feathers, and so the FBI has always had this problem with the State Department.
And I guess with the problem of terrorism, they have to really monitor it carefully, don't they? Have to.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, can you imagine being Bob Mueller, the FBI director, and responsible for the security of the whole country?
Yes.
Every single night he goes to bed, you know, hoping that there's not going to be another attack.
Yes.
It's rough.
In your last chapter is titled Geronimo. You wrote that the FBI was initially not told the identity of the target, and the FBI trained U.S. Navy SEALs for their mission to take out Osama bin Laden. But I guess, what did you learn about that mission?
What they did was they trained them on what to look for in the compound and how to package it as evidence. And they also took custody of all the material, over 100 items, at the FBI laboratory, and then they made copies for the CIA, et cetera. So that was.
So they really gathered a tremendous amount of evidence to be monitored. I mean, to be reviewed and to be used for future cases and things, right?
Right. Some drives, all kinds of hard drives that had all kinds of information.
Wow. The other thing I thought was interesting in your book was because of Hoover's abuses, Congress in 1968 enacted a law requiring that future FBI directors be nominated by the President and confirmed by the Senate, and their terms are limited to 10 years, but the current director has been there for 12 years. How did that happen?
Obama, you know, tried a few candidates that were not interested to replace him, and
like who do you think he asked? Do you know? Can you say?
I don't want to get.
Okay.
Yeah, but the result was Obama wanted Mueller to stay. Congress passed a new law which specifically allowed him to stay for 2 more years. So, you know, it was fine, and it speaks to Mueller's reputation that they wanted to do that.
Yeah. Ronald, how did the FBI uncover Robert Hanssen, the FBI agent who has been described as the worst spy in American history?
You know, there was this movie, Breach, which pretended to tell a story. Actually, it was almost all fiction. It gave all credit to some low-level support employee who actually did almost nothing. This book, The Secrets of the FBI, tells the real story, which is Mike Rochford, an FBI agent, developed a source in the SVR, the successor of the KGB, offered eventually a $7 million package as well, and that source gave up Robert Hanssen, and he was the worst spy in American history.
Because he gave the Soviets so many secrets, right? And then the Russians after that, right? I mean.
Right. So he spied for
like, what was it, 15 years, right?
Something like that, yeah, and just tremendously damaging.
And then he was just his clearance allowed him to access to the secrets at the CIA and the NSA and the White House and the Defense Department. What were some of the other things that Hanssen gave the KGB in terms of the big intelligence programs?
He gave the KGB the identities of assets or agents who were working for the CIA, and as a result, many of them were executed.
Like killed around the world, right?
That's right.
Oh,
Killed,
wow.
executed, and as well as secrets of how their communications are intercepted. Just gave them the whole story.
And I also wanted to ask you really quickly about the tunnel that was built near the Russian embassy, and it cost $1 billion.
Yeah, isn't that incredible?
And that was compromised. Hansen told them about that tunnel, right?
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, and meanwhile, Hansen was able to find out whether the FBI was investigating him. He was able to get access to those databanks as well. So, you know, he was able to try to ward off any investigation of him. And for a while, the FBI went off in the wrong direction, investigated a CIA officer by the name of Brian Kelly. They were totally wrong about that, and but eventually they got their man.
So eventually, therefore now things have changed. So you don't think there'll be another Hansen down the road? Do you think? I mean,
well, interesting that initially he was able to spy because there was no periodic polygraph testing. Now there is, and I think that's going to help a lot.
Well, this is a very multidimensional book in which you can combine many different themes into the narrative tale. With its considerable research, what did you want to set out to accomplish, and how long did this project take you?
It took about 2 years. Of course, I already had tremendous background and sources. You know, on the one hand, I wanted to just have a book that people would enjoy reading. You know, and some of the tales about the how they break into homes and offices are funny, and
they are funny,
amazing, and but at the same time tell the real story of the FBI, because it's one of the most important institutions in our country. So much misinformation about it, and really give an inside look at how it works.
And did you find that the CIA and the FBI cooperate pretty well together, or do you think that there are big egos on both sides, or do you think it's...
There's always that, you know, even within any organization, of course, but now, you know, if there is no cooperation, that person is in trouble, and that's quite different from the old days when they might be in trouble because they cooperated.
That's right. And what do you see the future of the FBI in the next 2 to 5 years? What do you think it'll just be going the same direction? And
no, it's always changing. You know, I think there's going to be much more emphasis on cyber attacks.
Okay, cyber terrorism.
And they're going to try to get rid of some other areas, like going after child pornography, which is something that the police do.
Right.
So always changing their mission. They try to focus on things that they alone can do well, that do affect the national security, such as espionage and terrorism.
Well, I want you to tell us how our viewers can find your book. It's at the bookstores, and
it's Secrets of the FBI is in all bookstores and also on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, and.
Do you have a personal website?
My website is RonaldKessler.com.
Wow, your name, Ronald Kessler. Well, it has been really great talking to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the great interview, Lois.
Thank you. And please join us again next month for a new edition of the Bookman's Corner.